said to me, Firebomber doesn't count. Firebomber's not a real band.
I didn't say that. No, I didn't. Slander, libel. Welcome to the Skiffy and Fantasy Show's The Eyecatch, our anime focus show.
I went to Planet Dance, and all I got was the life force sucked out of me.
I'm Sean.
I'm Brandon.
I'm Iori. Oe no uta o kike! And on today's show, we'll discuss Macross 7, one of my favorite things, unfortunately. Episodes 1 through 12, which were released between October 16th, 1994 and January 8th, 1995. It is a product of its time, which was written by Tomita Sugehiro and directed by Amino Tetsuro, with story concepts by Kawamori Shoji, who I am going to fight someday, and mechanical designs by Same, along with Miyatake Kazutaka.
But before we get into Macross 7, another friendly reminder that we want to hear from you, listeners. So please share your comments with us about this and past episodes at skiffyandfanty.com/listener suggestions. We're still hoping to put together our listener mailbag episodes with your thoughts, questions, topic suggestions, and more, so get those thoughts in. And of course, that includes thoughts about this new thing, because the Eyecatch is something that I'm really excited to do more of on Skiffy and Fanty, and I hope that you enjoy this and give us your thoughts about us talking about anime now.
Yeah, or else.
Or else.
Okay, so one of the reasons that we started watching Macross 7 is that Sean and I got into an argument about our favorite rock bands. And
Oh, right, yes. I remember how this came up.
Sean said to me, Firebomber doesn't count. Firebomber's not a real band.
I didn't say that. No, I didn't. Slander, libel.
Oh, God.
You said, Yuri, they're a fictional band, you have to pick a real one. And I said, they can't be that fictional if I've seen them live 3 times. And that's how we wound up here.
Yeah. And to be fair, that means the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle band was real, because I also saw them live.
Oh, they were absolutely a real band. I'm not arguing that with you.
Okay, I'm just making sure. I did in fact see Raphael banging it out on, I can't remember what instrument he played, probably drums. No, he didn't play drums.
Michelangelo
has to be Michelangelo. He has to be drums. And Raphael cannot be bass.
He doesn't have the mind for it. That's
got to be Donatello.
He's lead guitar.
So he plays guitar.
He's lead guitar, Leonardo's
he's lead
rhythm.
Guitar. He shreds. Yori, this is your show. And so I would like it if you could give us like a rundown of what episodes 1 through 12 are about. Like, a kind of brief rundown of what do we learn in these 12 episodes? Go.
I mean, the first thing you have to understand is this is happening about 35 years after the first Macross. So, I'm actually going to rewind and give us some basic world building. A long, long time ago, there was the protoculture. And the protoculture basically threw seeds of life into the universe and said, God, we hope you make something decent out of yourselves. And then they kind of, whoopsie-doodle, destroyed themselves a little. It is implied that, blah, 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 we have made mistakes led to war, and we have now just driven ourselves extinct. But one of the species that the protoculture created are the Zentradi. Here's a fun little thing. The Zentradi are gendered really aggressively, so that you call male Zentradi Zentradi, and you call female Zentradi Meltrandi. These are both plural nouns, just so you're aware. The Zentradi come into contact with Earth humans, and war ensues.
Wait, no, hold on. You can't just leave out the part where the Zentradi are also giants.
Okay, yes, they're also 15 meters tall, but they can myclonize to become human size. We have the technology to solve this problem.
Yes.
So, yes, the Zentradi are 15 meters tall, They can micronize and become human size. And the war is brought to an end because the Zentradi don't actually have culture beyond war, 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 kill, kill, kill. So when they are introduced to human pop music, it just blows their think pans wide open. And they're like, holy shit, this rocks. We're not going to kill humans because we want more music. Hey, can you guys teach us how to make this? And a new era of unity and cooperation is born. But during this war, Maximilian Genius, an ace pilot for the UN Spacey, gets into a dogfight with Miria, who is one of the best Meltran fighter pilots. She loses, though, and she gets so fucking mad that she has to infiltrate the Macross to try to just kill this man hand to hand because how dare he defeat her. And when she gets in there with her knife and goes for the stab, he looks upon her mesmerized, and he's like, oh, you're beautiful. And this is how we get the first interspecies marriage.
Yeah, all of these things perfectly run-of-the-mill.
This is actually deeply important to the story of Macross 7, because Max and Milia go on to have many, many daughters, and one of them, Milane, is our protagonist. And also, in the background of this show, her parents' extremely public, extremely politically significant marriage is going to pieces.
Yeah. Also, perfectly normal.
Yes, but, it's kind of buckling under its own pressure, right? Because it's the first interspecies marriage. It means so much for both our species that we have this tangible symbol of unity. That itself is a huge pressure that overshadows and controls a lot of the political developments within the storyline of Macross 7, particularly because on the ship City 7, Max is in charge of the military, and Milia is the mayor. And every time they fight in public, it becomes very, very personal very quickly.
Nothing makes a marriage stronger than being simultaneously the figure of unity in your entire community and being both politician.
And so now we get on this new ship, Macross 7. So what is the plot line?
City 7.
Yeah, what is the plot of this particular, then, story that we're given with Malene?
Milane joins a band called Firebomber, which has had multiple female vocalists just fucking up and quit because no one can handle working with Neki Basara, who is, to be fair, a goddamn nightmare. With all the love in my heart.
We'll come back to that.
With all the love in my heart. This is not a person you want to be your creative partner. In fairness, he's a genius. He's just also really, really focused on the music to the exclusion of everything else forever and ever. He's oblivious, he's insensitive, he's kind of a dick a lot of the time.
He's the one member of Firebomber in 12 episodes that we don't see.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Let's get more story. What's the story? Let's save him because we will have lots to say about him.
Positive things. We will have positive things to say about him.
Oh Lord.
No, we won't.
Oh,
no,
I am
not.
excited for this conversation, but yes, let's continue.
So why are they in space? Why are they on this space station? What's the deal?
So we're in City 7 as part of a galaxy exploration and colonization initiative because, look at the Earth. We've done a bad job with the Earth. We need to find other places to live. So the Macross 7 splits into Battle 7 and City 7. Most of the action of the first 12 episodes will take place in City 7, where the civilian population lives. The fighter jets used in this show are called Valkyries. They are transformers. So, there's the Batroid form that's kind of humanoid mechy, and then the actual fighter jet form. And we are attacked by other Valkyries? This is weird, this is bad. Why does the enemy have the same weapons we do? Where are these enemies coming from? Occasionally, we run into little ships full of Zentradi who kind of missed the first war 35 years ago and have to be sort of reconverted into, oh no, we're all cool with each other. But instead, there are random Zentradi ships out there who just didn't know that there was a war or didn't know that the war was over.
I didn't get my chance to shoot the gun. Let me shoot the gun.
It's kind of like the Japanese World War II soldiers stranded in islands around the Philippines who were cut off from their units so they don't know the war stopped. We have a weird new enemy, and whoopsie doodle, they are just sucking spiritual energy out of the Valkyrie pilots and leaving them in comas. This is extremely bad. So Basara decides to get involved because he has a super overpowered prototype VF-19 with a custom paint job. It's red. That's how you know it's faster than everyone else's and special. But because Basara is an aggressive pacifist, he's not going to go out there with everybody else and shoot at the enemy, because that would be a shitty thing to do. He wants to make them his friends. And the way you do that is by playing music at them. And honestly, the first 12 episodes are mostly, our concert has been interrupted by a space battle. Well, there goes Basara in his fancy military plane. Yup, he just fired a Bluetooth speaker into another guy's cockpit, and he's singing a rock song. Okay, we're just going to roll with it. And in his defense, they are very good songs.
They are. Every song that I've heard so far in these 12 episodes is a banger.
The other things we need to know about the band: Basara, lead vocal and guitar. Milane, female vocal and bass. Ray Lovelock, keytar. Ray used to be in the military. He is the hookup that got Basara the Valkyrie. Basara does not know that he is being used as part of a military experiment. And whenever he figures that out, he's probably going to be real upset about it because he hates the military. And our drummer...
And then the last character, my favorite.
The MVP, yes! Who deserves all the respect in the world. Vifida Fies!
Who says all of one line in the first 12 episodes and is constantly drumming on stuff and is amazing.
She communicates with the drumming.
Yeah.
And, she is full Zentradi, whereas Milane is mixed. And, I do wonder sometimes, the way... So, there is something that feels like it's headed towards race-based comedy in how she is presented as just, giant, burly, silent woman. Because her role is to be the strong one who she drums, she carries people out of danger. These are her jobs. But at the same time, she's a Meltrandi, so at the same time, she's a Meltran. So, is it fair at this point in the canon to say that there have been stereotypes developed? And if anything, because she is so nonviolent, isn't she breaking our standard Zentradi stereotype?
Yeah, because she almost never engages in violence in these first 12 episodes. And even, I think, there's a moment when she does, it's in a very specific context of self-defense. It is not aggression per se. Oddly enough, it is the military character Ray who has the biggest problem with violence, because he's the one that at one point in, I think episode 8 or something, when he can't fire a gun, even though we know he has past military experience and has in fact probably killed people in combat, but he is unable to use his gun against these weird robot visor guys, these evil LeVar Burton monsters.
Yes. Yeah. At one point, our enemy hasn't been named yet, which is kind of awkward. But essentially, the new evil aliens infiltrate City 7 and begin attacking civilians and pulling spiritual energy out of them. This is simultaneously a threat and really plot-wise convenient because it gets our characters out of some awful jams.
Well, okay, so that's like the basic idea of what happens in the first 12 episodes. There's like obviously a lot of little specific details that we'll probably get into in more particular, because I suspect we're going to talk about how this series deals with romantic relationships eventually. But I want to get it out of the way so that hopefully Iori will not despise my existence by the end of this, that hopefully we will find areas of common ground later on. But Basara, who I must talk about because I despise him.
So if you haven't seen Macross 7, you have probably, in the course of your tenure on the internet, seen a GIF in which a leaf blows into a man's face, and the man has hair like a Dragon Ball Z character, and he just fucking eats the leaf. That's our boy.
Yeah, and he's awful. I cannot stand him as a human being.
You cannot stand him. I want to hear more about this, please.
Everything that Mylène says about him is 100% correct. He is selfish, self-absorbed, he's inconsiderate of others, she doesn't say pretentious, but she should say pretentious, because he is beyond pretentious, to the point that I actually kind of want him to get punched more often. He's rude, he completely blows off the band on multiple points and doesn't care about the needs of other members of the band. He is inconsiderate of the military's role for reasons that don't make sense to me.
Yeah, we don't get much backstory until later.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine we'll get explanations later in the story to some of the reasons why he is the way that he is. But to be totally honest, I'm amazed that he has a band in the first place. Because at this point, I got to about, like, I think episode 5, and I was like, why doesn't the rest of the band fire him? Why don't they just get somebody else? Like,
the thing you have to understand about traditional band composition over here is that in groups we have the center and the leader are different roles. So, like, Basara is the center. Rei is the leader.
Yeah.
And because Rei is the leader, we have somehow kept it together all this time.
I would still have gotten rid of him. I just really, as a person, he is a terrible, terrible, terrible person.
Oh no, he's a nightmare.
Yeah, and I don't feel sympathetic for him at all.
The purity of my art above all else combined with just Peter Pan complex in overdrive.
It's obnoxious.
But his singing voice is Fukuyama Yoshiki. And that makes up for a multitude of sins as far as I'm concerned.
I understand that voice is considered good. I will say that with respect to that singer, in the guise of Basara, because I'm not going to insult the singer directly, but rather through the character, you gotta be better than that to justify that kind of attitude. He's good, but he is not godly. Mm-hmm. No offense. Sorry. Like, the songs are fine. I don't think they're the greatest songs in the world. Part of that's because I heard the same song 87 times in the course of 12 episodes, which is a different
Let's see. What
thing.
Songs have we heard so far? We've heard Seventh Moon, but we haven't heard it performed in series. We hear both Planet Dance and Totsugeki Love Heart multiple times in battle sequences.
We've heard My Friends.
Yes, My
Many
Friend
times.
and A Bit of Sweet Fantasy, which are both Mylène's focus songs. We've heard a snippet of him working on Remember 16, which is going to be great when we actually get it. And I think we've had a little teeny bit of Submarine Street.
I think the songs are fun. I think the one where the guitar sounds like it's playing a harmonica, I forget which one. That's the Planet one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Planet Dance.
That one's a lot of fun, and I like the way that the beat comes in on that one because of they always show like the drummer from like a lot of awkward angles, which is pretty fun. I like the drumming in that. I like the beat. I like the rhythm.
It's funny, they don't usually like objectify Vivida except for that one shot where it's just like, we just want you to see how fucking ripped her abs are.
Yeah. It's an interesting shot, and it's an interesting choice to show from a drumming perspective. I don't know. It's pretty fun. I think the songs are fine. I just think
the
that
camera's basically coming up from like lying on the floor between her
It's a
legs
crotch
so
shot.
that we get the optimal. So that we get the optimal view of her, like, full 12-pack.
I mean, she is ripped, and is amazing.
God, yeah.
My favorite
She's got
character.
biceps bigger than my entire skull.
Well, that is also because she's 3 feet taller than you, so... Because she's like 9'6", so...
She's also... This is her micronized size, buddy.
I know, imagine how tall she is when in regular size. Oh my god. She's pretty big.
Like, when she is in regular Zentradi form, I bet she's still taller than a lot of others in Melchandi.
So, anyway, like, I'm hoping, because I've never seen Macross 7 in total. I've seen bits and pieces of it. My hope is that as the series progresses, it's going to do a lot to humanize Basara, because at this point, I find him detestable in a way that I don't find almost any other character in this series, even the villains, which is saying something because the villains are coded very strongly as much bad people. But Basara, because he's on screen so much for me, I'm struggling to really care about him outside of his relationship to other people. I care about the people around him. I actually don't really care about him as a person. I find him just as a person detestable. Now, maybe there's a story that we're going to get later on that's going to explain why he is the way that he is, that will attempt to humanize his very antisocial behavior and selfishness.
There's not much of a story because
don't tell
the
anybody
production
that.
team... I do want to keep you from getting your hopes up too much because the production team, when discussing Basara, full on said, for a hero there is the present and there is the future. A hero doesn't need a past.
Ah.
Well, then he's not a hero.
I'm going to give Basara points for this, just because he is so massively self-absorbed. He hasn't noticed that Mylene has a crush on him, and he doesn't objectify her the way a lot of other guys in this series do.
That is true.
And for clarification, because, you know, the Brazilian cut bikini bottoms on her stage outfit might have misled you about whether or not this child is an adult. No, Mylene's a child. Mylene's 14.
Yeah. I'm curious that you brought that up because while I think her suit that she wears in her performances is obviously sexualized,
she's very much having her teenage rebellion phase. Like,
yes.
She ran away from home. She is wearing super risque outfits on stage. She joined this rock band that her family doesn't approve of.
But I think what's interesting is with the rock band stuff, the camera gaze sometimes accentuates her physical features, which is just making me vomit a little bit just saying that phrase. But a lot of times isn't. It's just sort of like showing her playing her songs, etc. But episode 7, when they go to the beach resort ship.
Her fucking bodyguard? Her supposed bodyguard selected by her mother?
Because there's a bit where the camera literally follows her butt as she goes to the water. And then we get the bodyguard who is literally looking at her middle section where the curvature of her legs and basically right dead set middle.
Stop dancing around it. The bodyguard uses his binoculars to check out her bikini line. It's the worst.
And talks about it while he's doing it. He's so gross.
I want to just drop kick this man off a balcony. I hate Michael.
He is.
And like, this
gross.
is not the only time a man is just straight up gross at Mylene. And it's just like, she's 14. I want to beat all of you to death with my bare hands for looking at her this way.
It's really gross. I would like that character. His name's Michael, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would like that character if he had just stayed as the like bumbling, obscenely large bodyguard, because there's this hilarious moment in maybe episode 8 or something where they're like chasing after her, trying to follow her while like one of the like vampire drone guys is also chasing her. And he's like on the phone with them being like, I'll be there soon. And he shows up on this like tiny foldable scooter.
His fucking moped.
This tiniest thing. And he just picks it up, puts it over his shoulder and gets in the car.
There's also a really gorgeous moment where he is in Basara and Ray's apartment block, and he is too tall for the door and just takes out a piece of the upper frame, with his
Yeah.
skull, and my only regret about that scene is that it didn't concuss him and take him out of play for the rest of the series.
I mean, it tried.
Because we see him being gross.
Yeah. If he wasn't gross about a literal child that he's supposed to be protecting,
Yes.
he would be a decent comic relief character. But because we've seen him be gross,
Yeah.
I am really just rooting for this man to fall down a flight of stairs.
Yeah. I mean, literally the two funniest characters, I think, in this entire show are supposed to be Michael, who maybe in 1994 was funny. I find him detestable because of the stuff we've already mentioned. And then the other is this random girl with the flowers that's constantly showing up.
The girly flowers is my favorite character. 100%.
She just shows up everywhere. Like, I just want to give the flowers to the band. Or, well, more probably Basara, but never can. Is always interrupted by something, or not allowed in, or just as she gets there, they get in a car, drive away. Like, every single time. It's like almost every episode.
It is a recurring thing for, like, at Firebomber shows. Most people don't cosplay, but there's almost always someone who decided to come as the girl with the flowers. I remember the very first time I saw Jam Project live in Los Angeles, someone did show up as the girl with the flowers, and she did get to give Fukuyama Yoshiki the flowers, and it was the most heartwarming thing.
That's actually really dope.
Aww. So, Brandon, what do you... Iori and I have said a lot here.
Indeed.
I have talked more on this episode than any of our other ones.
That is correct. I can already tell. But I there's a lot of different things that Iori and I have kind of brought up already, and it was one of those, like, leaping out to you as a thing you have an opinion on you'd like to expand on.
So, I have a lot of thoughts about the things that have already been said. Like, for one, I think that while Basara is very obviously detestable in a certain kind of way, a part of me is also gravitating to him because he's just an art himbo. His only motivation in the universe is, I want to sing a song that everybody can feel, and I'm hurt that for 12 episodes it's not happening. How many cockpits do I have to split open with large speaker bullets just so somebody could listen to my song and say that my song is rad? Please just give me this one thing.
He is very hungry for artistic validation.
I am convinced it's literally the only thing, like, keeping him alive. The desire for somebody to say that he wrote a cool song. But that obviously gets into the thing that I think I care about the most. Which is, before this point, I have never consumed a single Macross property. This is entirely new to me. Iori is, like, either confused or very upset. I can't tell which.
I've been trying to drag Brandon down this rabbit hole with me for over a year, because I think that Macross presents some of the strongest comp titles for Sound Clash, which is Brandon's extremely excellent tabletop game.
Thank you. The game's not done. So I have but like...
Yes, but I'm playing it right now.
Yes.
And let me be real. It is fantastic. It is a blast. I am having so much fun.
Thank you very much. Because first of all, watching Macross 7, I was like, this is a Sound Clash game. That I could just do the thing. It would make a lot of sense. But as a result, there is a thing that is immediately obvious to me, which is part of the reason why I never consumed Macross before was I interpreted it as... There is this large, several series spanning space opera that is obviously too dense and difficult for me to ever, like, genuinely sink my teeth in. I don't think I care about giant robots just waging war that much to be invested. But Macross 7 and the franchise as a whole cares a lot about the idea that music has not only cultural significance, but literally universal significance. That music genuinely has the capacity to change the world not only socially or politically, but, like, literally on an emotional level. That I think is really dope. Like, I think that it's obviously really dope that that Macross 7 harkens back to the fact that previous series have protagonists whose entire deal is pop singer who is responsible for making sure that a war stopped. And I think that that's fucking rad.
It is a space opera, but even though the individual details of each series are different, it still boils down to, we've found a different species created by the proto-culture. how do we overcome our differences via music so that we can live in harmony with these people we would like to be our new friends.
Mm-hmm. So, like, one of those obvious comparisons that you stated earlier is that if giving your neighbor the opportunity to consume your culture and know that that culture means something to you and know that they can engage with that culture and it can be theirs as well, is obviously a point of communication, an opportunity for us to actually come together and create a bridge through which we can become greater than ourselves. And that's already rad. But Macross 7 decides to go a step further and go, what if music is literally responsible for our ability to continue living? And I think that that's really dope.
I mean, I think Spiritia is a extremely highfalutin concept that is a cover for our will to keep going on, like, am I too depressed to move, etc., etc. We see this in the episodes with Alice Holiday, who is a really fantastic singer, who has just become consumed with ennui. She's not sure where her career is going now. She feels like she's peaked. And then the vampires hit her with their special little lasers so that they can suck even more spiritia out of her, leaving her, like, close to catatonic with depression. But by listening to Mylene singing Sweet Fantasy and then the rest of the band joining in, she remembers what is good about being alive. She remembers what is good about her own life and regains faith in her own capacity to create. And God, I see you guys judging me about how I'm tearing up a little, but like...
No, because I have the same feeling.
It was genuinely, even though it was genuinely a really gorgeous story point.
Yeah. Because, like, so there are two things that mattered to me a lot in these 12 episodes. There's obviously that same episode with Alice Holiday, because we've spent several episodes up to this point going, okay, these vampires are doing a thing. We don't know why they're doing it, or why it is important to them that they get this spiritia thing, or why they can tell who has more or less of it. But we know that it's doing something, and we kind of want to know how that's going to narratively or thematically complete in the same direction as Basara just going into space and singing at people. And then we meet Alice, and that's when we learn not only that, like, spiritia actually, like, severs one from the ability to continue feeling value in the things that obviously gave them value, which matters to Alice because Alice already kind of lost hope in the industry before this happened, and still had more spiritia than anyone that we've met at this point. But by revealing that music had the capacity to return Alice to a state of normalcy and beyond, we're also learning that music was responsible for that. That Mylene's song rocks, and Alice knows that, and it was capable of literally returning Alice from what is obviously depression. And that's a kind of, like, obvious metaphor in and of itself. That music gives your life meaning when that art gives your life meaning in a world where it is very difficult to feel like you are surviving in these circumstances.
And something we learn as we watch... Can I stop calling them the enemy? Can I name them even though we haven't gotten there yet?
We can call them vampires. That's all we can call them for now.
No,
fine,
you're not allowed to name them. No. Well, I think calling them vampires is really important because while the weird drone guys are being called vampires somewhat colloquially in the story, they are giving us a lot of clues that they are spiritia vampires, right? Because at one point the like leader of the group.
But the important part is that Lord Gapelnich is talking about, I have a dream of us being able to farm this. Because they cannot create spiritia on their own. That is why they are vampiring.
And so they just destroy everything that they find because they take it all away and they leave these people catatonic. They leave them basically in comas. Mm-hmm. And so the idea that humans and Zentradi, I suppose by extension, can rejuvenate this is of immense interest to this lord, but isn't necessarily being shared universally among the members of their group, because there is the Gillich, whatever his name is, the guy with the creepy eyeball.
Gigi.
That guy. Yeah, and he's very much like, I don't understand what your whole thing is. Why don't we just destroy them all and take it? Let's just go and be done with this. And it's like, no, this is part of my plan to find this dream, etc. This idea of hoping for something greater than oneself, than one's immediate desires for themselves, which is hopefully something that the series is going to deal with as it relates to all the different characters, so we can sort of make those connections. So we're sort of seeing the lines being put in play.
Yeah, we are seeing them lay the groundwork for, essentially, here is a way that you too might be able to generate Spiritia.
Yeah. If you get my album to #1, you'll have enough Spiritia to live.
And honestly, in these first 12 episodes, the big moment in which I do like Basara instead of just being frustrated with him is when he loses his shit at Rei after finding out that there are missiles in his Valkyrie. Because Basara does not want to shoot people. Basara wants to make friends with them, and if you shoot someone and kill them, you cannot convert them to friendship. You cannot share your culture with them. And this is the thing that makes him a valuable protagonist to me in a space opera with a heavy focus on the military.
So this gets to the other thing that I had a lot of feelings about, right? Like the other moment that sealed the theme for me is that they've been invited to perform for Supernova, which is like the big spotlight performance thing where that has apparently made performers in the past. And on their way to the show, Basara gets in a fight with two groups of fans who have just come off the tram headed to this place, neither of which have ever heard of Firebomber, both of which hate each other because they're both fans for rival bands. He's trying very poorly to defuse the situation and making things worse, and actively wants to convince all of these people that if they hear Firebomber, all of this conflict will be resolved. And then they start behaving badly, and he starts, like, as Meline arrives and they've decided they're gonna start a fight, he knocks out a couple of them and steps back and goes, "Oh shit, I hit these people. I've failed. Look what you made me do."
He didn't want to hit them. It was more putting his fists between their fists and Meline.
Yeah, but like after that, they go to Supernova and Firebomber performs, and he wins over both of those groups of fans.
And in general, even when people are like, you know, your sound isn't my vibe, but I can tell that you care deeply about your sound, and I respect that.
It's interesting that this is the thing that both of you are saying sort of offers an element of his personality that you don't find detestable or find annoying or obnoxious or over the top or whatever word we might use. Because the thing for me that I would say is his single redeeming quality is not that, because I fundamentally disagree with his take on all of that. Fundamentally, 100%, I want to punch him every single time he whines about having to shoot somebody or punch someone in the face.
Wow, I'm getting some very strong just getting the robot Shinji vibes from you right now, Sean.
We'll come back to this, I'm sure.
Oh, Lord.
The thing that I think is really suggests there is a core in deep down buried in that he won't admit to himself exists is whenever Milena is in trouble, he usually does not go, oh, well, dumb things, like, I'm not going to go do anything about it. Once he finds out she's in trouble, he's like, I'm going to go take care of it. I'm not going to complain about it. I may be snarky while I'm there with you, but he rescues her or helps her in a number of different situations, and that's it. That's just what he does. And it's the only thing that to me suggests that there's a core there of a person who's not so self-absorbed, that actually can care about other people. And it's my hope that the series is going to tease that out, and I don't know if it will, but it would be nice if that's what we got, because I want him to recognize that his mission to get people to, like, love each other and be friends requires that he also be considerate and loving of other people, and that he needs other people. He cannot just do this whole thing on his own. He needs other people. That seems to be the message that it's building slowly towards, obviously we're only 12 episodes in out of
And we already see a little bit of this in his dynamic with Ray, because he's fucking horrified when Ray drags himself out of the hospital.
Yeah.
Because Ray is hiding from him that he is, like, a military plant.
He's literally standing on top of the Valkyrie going, "Thank you for getting me into the robot. Now go back to the hospital. You are literally bleeding to death." And just stands there waiting.
Phoned me and told me where the hospital... You could have phoned me and told me where the robot was, man.
Yeah. So, like, there's a thing that I find interesting about that dynamic between Basara and Milene. That, Sean, this either makes Basara better or worse for you, and I'm not sure which, but I find it interesting. Which is, it's kind of obvious to me, at least, that a lot of that feeling, which is obviously there, that drives him to protect Milene in those scenes, is a respect for Milene's approach to music, even though they also fundamentally disagree. Because both instances where Milene has been in, like, a life or death situation and only relied on Basara to escape that situation, his immediate response is, well, music is gonna solve this problem. And it always does. I'm thinking particularly of that very last episode, where Milene has been kidnapped, and everybody else is, like, running around City 7 trying to figure out where Milene and all of the other people who have apparently also been kidnapped could possibly be. And is responding, obviously with derision, to Basara, who goes, well, if I sing, Milene will hear it, and that's how we'll know where she is. But
because
it works.
Of the little thing, the little animal.
Goofava,
yeah.
Goofava is excellent.
Yeah.
But also, like, the science of this does get fleshed out in later series, so I do want to clarify that this is not as much of a complete narrative ass-pull as it looks.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't read it that way. I thought that made some sort of weird sense, that the music is clearly central to everything about this entire series. And so, of course, they would find some way that music would be the thing that allows them to reconnect and find the person that they care about.
Yeah, I thought it was thematic sense. Like, the thing that I like about that scene isn't just Milene hears Basara, or that Milene sings back so Basara knows where she is. It's that when she starts singing, everybody else in that container who has also been kidnapped also starts singing. Like, they look at her and go, we're in danger. Why do you think that this is an appropriate thing to do?
It gradually becomes a moment of unity among these captives.
Yeah. It's lifting their spirits. They are now in community in this moment. And it's ultimately the thing that saves their lives.
And this is a scene that becomes a recurring visual motif. Well, a recurring visual and audio motif in later series. We just get the group of people hunkered down in a bomb shelter together, singing.
Yeah.
And it turns a moment of fear into a moment of community.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the things that Macross, as a whole, does best. And, I mean, you feel it in the lives, too. Like, we can't do as much right now because global reasons. So when we hold lives now, we're not allowed to cheer or call or sing along. But when I went to the crossover live in 2019, just like 8,000 people in Makuhari Messe singing along because it all meant so much to us. And the crossover live was not just 7. We brought everybody out. Like, Ichima Mari came over from California to be Minmay again.
Aww.
Cheryl and Ranka from Frontier. Valkyrie from Delta. And pulling the entire cast on stage to sing songs from, like, the 70s and 80s. Just the backbone of the Macross franchise. And all of us singing along with them was this terrific and moving moment of community for all of us.
I think it's great that you mentioned that, because this is the thing that I appreciate about what this show is trying to do with music, is trying to trying really hard to get this point across about the value that music has to a community. And while we've not seen it in a lot of ways so far in these first 12 episodes in like very concentrated ways, that last episode of those people singing together is like the most important embodiment thus far for us of that meaning for music. Even more so than anything Basara has given us in his efforts to disrupt the military's action in protecting the city, which we might come back to later. Because it is regular, everyday people seeing the value of music in a moment of crisis that provides supports, provides a way of dealing with stress and all of those things, and it is by being together and working together. We see glimpses of that earlier in the series with, you know, instances of fans at different events, or people responding to Firebomber at, you know, concerts, etc., or the poor woman with the flowers who keeps showing up, who's clearly their greatest fan, and yet they never seem to get the flowers from her. She's spent literally millions of dollars on flowers at this point and has yet to be able to deliver them. So I really appreciate that the show is trying to focus on that so much, on that value of music, because to be honest, that is not a thing we see that often in our explorations of community values or things that bring people together. Like, we hear that all the time about, like, music as like the universal language. But how often do we actually see that presented almost literally in fiction of any form? Not really that often.
Yeah, and not just that, but it's not very often that we tell a story that is, like, intensely about conflict, and not just say that art has the capacity to bring us together in times of conflict, but literally show how it happens. Most times it's just a thing that you're supposed to know and observe. But instead we're telling the story not only of the fact that that is the case, but the fact that it is difficult. Because sometimes people do not understand, or don't want to understand, or are connected to the idea that they must engage in conflict. Like, the thing that matters to me a lot whenever Basara goes out with his Valkyrie during skirmishes is that even though this is obviously a reckless thing to do, and he's only alive by the grace of plot armor in all of these episodes, is the fact that it is obvious to some of the other pilots there that this matters to Basara for some reason. It's obvious that it's also very stupid, of course. But a lot of them are also intensely motivated by the fact that they like shooting things in space and need Basara to know that he has no value here, and the only way that these problems are solved is with violence. That addition to having to say so, I feel, is significant. I feel like the show is obviously trying to say there are people who obviously place value in engaging in physical conflict.
Are we going to talk about Gamlin?
Oh god.
I think, like, you know, it's kind of funny that it took us this long to talk about Gamlin Kizaki. Who, by the way, I would like to add, is voiced by Koyasu Takehito, whose major skill in the 90s is playing men who are having an extremely bad day.
Yeah, he seems to be going through it on a regular basis, to be perfectly honest.
I think most Koyasu characters in the 90s were very much going through it. Sean, you will remember him as Zex Marquise.
Oh,
who
Zex!
was also going through it.
Zex! Yes! Got him!
This is a reference I don't understand.
You'll get it one day, Brandon. Don't worry.
I'm sure we're working our way up to that point.
The greatest anime of all time.
There is a thing that I enjoy about Gamlin, which is, like, he is...
Is it the hair?
I mean, the hair is another thing. He looks like a wolf. Whenever he's not in his helmet, he looks like...
He's discount salty Wolverine. That's what he's got going
on.
Yeah.
But the energy that I dig so much about Gamlin is he's solely motivated by this desire to make Basara feel like all of his effort doesn't amount to anything, and is constantly frustrated by the fact that he cannot accomplish that because Basara is too stupid to listen to him. And is, like, very hurt by the fact that not only does Basara have a Valkyrie, but that the Valkyrie is, like, actually rad.
Oh, it's better than his, because Gamlin is running around in a VF-17D.
Yeah?
Like, he's 2 models behind Basra. Basra's got the VF-19. He's got this fucking military prototype jet, and Gamlin... I swear, half of Gamlin's deal there is just, like, jealousy, like, no, I'm a super elite pilot. I'm in the super elite squad. I'm Top Gun. Why aren't they giving me the fancy prototype?
Yeah.
But he's right.
I mean, but there's something very amusing, of course, when he arrives at that base and goes, I heard that there's a new Valkyrie on this base. Can I see it? I'm sorry, I can't show it to you.
Sir, that is super classified.
Imagine being told by someone of lower rank than you that someone who is not in the military just landed a Valkyrie in this top secret base and you can't even see it.
The thing with Gamlin is, Gamlin's motivations and the reasons he feels and thinks the things that he does make complete sense. Because from his perspective, every day, literally, almost literally, like every episode basically, he's going out there to defend this floating city and all the million civilians on it. He's going out there risking his life. People he presumably cares about are getting blown up in space, right? He's losing friends. All this stuff is happening. And here is this asshole who just keeps showing up and playing his fucking rock song on in his Valkyrie that's literally flown by playing a guitar and is constantly getting in the way. And he's being told he can't do anything about it. And he's trying to tell the guy, stop, you're making it hard for us to do the job we've been tasked to do, which they don't necessarily want to have to do. They would probably rather just fly around and have fun and do flippy flips, but they can't. They're being attacked. And this is where I find so far Basra's sort of ethos that he's presented to us to be like nonsensical.
I can't say the thing I want to about Gamlin because it's spoiler. God damn it. It hasn't been revealed, yeah.
Yeah, so this opinion can change based on new information we may get later in the season. But right now, I'm actually quite sympathetic to Gamlin, other than the fact that I think his haircut implies to me that he's going to be a dick at some point, if he hasn't already. Like, I'm sorry, there's something about him when he's on the computer and he's trying to get into the secret files, and it's like cast in the middle of that shadows, and he looks like one of those characters. Like
it makes him villain shaped.
He looked villainous. And I was immediately concerned because he and Mullane are, like, dating. He's 19, I guess, in this.
Yeah.
They're, like, dating,
It's a less problematic age gap than Basra and Mullane, but at the same time, it's still pretty bad,
it's still
even though
problematic.
It was made in the 90s in Japan, and...
I get it, but it's...
You know, I have to give this credit for at least being a lot less fan-servicey than many of its sci-fi contemporaries.
Less, but not.
Yeah, no.
The ending video of this anime, I hate it. The ending visual, I hate it.
You're not gonna like Gundam Wings then either, because it does the same thing with Relena. Yeah, this is a thing. I think in like a lot of 90s anime that I remember is like the female characters.
Cute girls being cute.
Yeah, basically. That's kind of at least Relena gets to like hang out with an elephant at the end of Gundam Wing, so that's fun. But, you know. I'm fine with like a small range on the continuum of cute. It's perfectly understandable to me. There is a frame in the ED of Macross 7 that is clearly Meline asleep. And it's not a cute asleep. It's supposed to be an erotic asleep, and I hate it. The ending credits of this are all images of her, and some of those images are impossible to see as purely just cute. Some of them are meant to be viewed sexually. And the problem is, again, I get that it's an animated character, so she's not literally real, but she is meant to be 14. But she's still meant to be 14. She is meant to be literally barely even into early adulthood at this point. And it is much creepy. And I know we basically started here and we're back to it again. But we have to, because like the way that this character is presented to us, there's these hints that the mayor, who's her mother, wants her to be an arranged marriage and basically arranges her with Gamlen. Sorry, let me rephrase. It's said explicitly.
It's very political.
Yeah. And so the dating with Gamlen kind of starts, and it seems that Gamlen and her are kind of like having a cute
They're friendly, but he is also very freaked out because, like, A of all, it's one of the mayor's daughters. Second of B, he actually seems to have a consciousness of the age gap and how weird it is because he keeps asking her very awkwardly how school is going.
Yeah.
And it's very clear in those moments, like, this is a man who does not know what to do in the situation he is in.
What do you do?
I mean, he's in a very emotionally intense situation. Imagine having your relationship with the mayor's daughter go terribly.
It's the mayor's daughter, and also, Max Genius is his boss? So,
Yeah.
he works for both her parents.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a tough
Imagine
spot.
your breakup goes so terribly you get demoted.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that could happen, right? So,
Yeah.
It's just creepy.
Gamlen Kizaki is just going through it.
I mean, it's also obviously complicated.
And I do also appreciate how every time someone around him is like, yeah, mayor's daughter, get it. He's like,
yes, his friend who's like, oh, I'm too old for her, buddy. But then he's like with two young women. He goes into like a club or whatever. But he's told by multiple people to go for it. Like, what? What are you doing?
Yeah, it's very weird.
I really do appreciate how viscerally uncomfortable he is in every one of those sequences. But so frequently it's coming from someone who, like, outranks him just enough that he can't do much.
Yeah.
Without jeopardizing his job. And, like, I appreciate the precarity of the situation he is in. Because I think it lends him a lot of complexity, personality-wise.
And it's obviously also very complicated by the fact that he's also attempting to do undercover work whenever he's on a date with Malene.
Yeah.
Because he's like, Malene is always around somewhere when Basara shows up. And I know that she's in a band, and I know that he's in a band. And he looks like
the know?
Like, he spends a lot of time.
Know that she. No,
can he not Google?
He doesn't know for a while that she's in the band, and I'm like, buddy, you've never once heard her mom complain about it?
It's weird.
They have a promo video.
Like, well, they don't have it for the first few episodes.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, the single's out. Like, the single's out, buddy. Look at the album cover.
Also, obviously it must be on the internet somewhere that the song that we heard at that park that one time is also the song that the guy in the Valkyrie keeps playing in space. Obviously, someone would have connected that dot somewhere on the internet.
Nah.
Flower Girl must have a blog where she documents every line.
Oh, she's got a Tumblr.
It either a Tumblr or an Instagram
And a
that
blog.
is just daily recounts of her attempts to give this bouquet of flowers.
Because it's every day. It's every day. That poor girl.
I think the only thing that lends, like, plausible deniability to Gamlen not knowing that Milane is part of Firebomber is that there has been stated to be a pretty serious problem with female vocalist turnover in this band.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They're worse than Nightwish about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love when Ray tells him off for it, where it's like, you need to go get her back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've been through so many of these. Do you have any idea how hard this is? Stop it, you jackass. He even tells him to keep the rockets at one point because he finds out he has rockets and he uses them. And he's trying to take them out and he's like, no, just leave him in there. Stop it. What are you doing? Just leave him in there. And I was like, yeah, just leave them in there. Because
You don't need to use your umbrella, but you should still carry your umbrella.
It's a good argument. But also, I kept thinking, like, but you didn't kill anybody with them last time. You just blew one of the robot legs off. The person inside was still fine. They just limped home.
Yeah, even though he was angry, he was able to restrict himself to non-lethal force.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to be using force at all.
Tough shit.
Exactly.
Don't be in a war zone.
I actually do really appreciate that the use of force is distressing to him.
I mean, I can respect that the idea of having to use force would be distressing.
When you look at the climate of contemporary 90s sci-fi anime, because this slightly predates Eva, doesn't it?
Just a little bit, yeah.
Mostly we got just an unquestioning glorification and embrace of the use of lethal force. So Basara was a breath of fresh air just because, like, yes, here's a guy who doesn't want to engage in violence. This is new. This is exciting. Thank Christ.
I mean, it gets back to the theme, right? A lot of contemporary science fiction media of any kind in any country in the 90s enjoys the idea that the other is an enemy and that you can gain no common ground with them. But Macross is all about the idea that that common ground is important and that it can be achieved through non-combative means. Kind of stands to reason that even if somebody had the tools to be directly engaged in conflict and be very good at it, that they would at least go, but I don't want to. That's what the music is for. Because in another anime, they'd be like, we hate you, and you have to convince us that we can like you. But Basara is like, I don't even know who you are. I haven't seen your face yet. But I want to believe that we can be friends. Please listen to my song and tell me that my song is good.
Even though he has no friends in real life.
None.
Nobody.
Can we say that Ray is his friend?
Ray.
Can we say that Ray is his friend?
No, Ray is not his friend.
Is Ray just his
Ray's
handler?
like his handler.
Yeah, I think Ray knows that if he weren't in this band, no one would eat. He's single-handedly responsible for getting them jobs. Like
literally nobody likes Basara. Not a single person in this entire floating city and space likes him. Not one. Not even his own mom.
That.
Not even his own mom likes him.
Okay.
Even people who love Basara's music don't necessarily like
Sean?
Basara.
Later you're going to understand that's a very fucking low blow. But
Oh no!
the existence of Flower Girl proves you wrong. There is one person in this city who loves Basara.
But has Flower Girl ever had to spend more than 6 minutes in Basara's presence?
She's never
and
been
actually
near
hear
him.
him speak.
Every time she gets near him, he gets in a car and drives
Oh no, but
away.
we do have. But there is Rex though. Rex is interesting though because like we meet like an all-girl biker gang. The leader
great.
of which is like, oh, that song was so good, I'm gonna kiss you now, and then we're never gonna see each other again.
But she's not his friend either.
Right?
She
So
finds him a curiosity, an unusual strangeness that is worth kissing, because why not?
I mean, it is kind of rad that, like, that entire moment is, I still don't understand this music thing, but I deeply understand that you're willing to risk your life for it.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Well, look, we have to stop because we could keep talking about stuff, but we are going to do more episodes because we're going to finish this anime.
Look, we have to do more episodes because I did not spend nearly enough time talking about Zentradi racial politics in this episode.
We will have to come back to it. Absolutely. So that's basically it, folks. If you have ever watched this show or are watching it now and would like to disagree vehemently with me, you may go to skiffingfanny.com/listener suggestions and tell me why. Tell me why. Anyway, there's a song there. Sorry.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Otherwise, you can leave other comments at that same place if you'd like to sort of riff on something we've said or ask another question or what have you.
Or tell us what you want us to watch in future episodes of the Eyecatch when we finish
That is true, too. And as always, you can follow us on all the places. We're at SkiffingFanty on Twitter and Instagram, and you can get the newsletter at skiffingfanty.com/newsletter. Lastly, if you enjoyed this episode or like our other episodes or a combination therein, support us at patreon.com/skiffingfanty, and do give us reviews on iTunes, 5 stars, put something, I don't know, cute down in there, tell us your favorite anime in one of them, I don't know, something like that. Yeah. As for me, you'll find me at Sean Duke on Twitter, SeanDuke.net, Alphabet Streams on Twitch, and Patreon.com/TheJoyFactory.
You can find me at The Rising Tides on Twitter, Patreon.com/TheRisingTides, on Twitch at The Rising Tides, and on SpeculatorSF.com, where I currently GM Fractal Spire, a Girl by Moonlight actual play. And I'll also mention that I'm making a game called Soundclash, so if you're into the idea that music actually has the capacity to change the world, you should check out therisingtides.itch.io for more information about that at some point.
Give me an I, give me an O, give me an R, give me an I. That is how you spell my name because there are no L's in Iori. You can find me at Iori Kusano on Twitter, kusanoiori.com, and I also play in both Fractal Spire at speculatesf.com and in the Soundclash test game. which is serialized on twitch.tv/ArvinElleron.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I will just let everybody know that we will be starting a band.
Oh ho?
Yeah. So I will be playing the tambourine. Iori will be playing lead vocals, and Brandon will be playing the drums. Paul will be playing bass, and we will be getting Mike Underwood to play lead guitar. And our band will be called Ice Nugget, and we will play only songs written in Japanese.
I am in favor of all.
Well, that's a pretty wide range.
Yeah.
Well, get writing.
I dig this a lot.
I mean, it's all going to be in perfectly grammatically accurate classical Japanese.
Perfect. Let's do it. We'll be the only rock band that'll do that.
Yeah.
I think Wagaki Band actually beat us.
I was
to
gonna
it.
ask
But we're
the
going
same.
to be more consistently grammatically
Okay,
correct.
but then we'll just switch up our style. We'll be like goth alt punk neoclassical rock band.
Too late.
That's all-
Too late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also taken.
Yeah.
Okay, let me try again. We will be a folk metal pop band.
Kind of. Well.
Wasn't that? Wait, no. The Decemberists weren't metal.
All right, let me try again. For fuck's sake.
Mhm.
What?
Your last chance.
Last chance.
Maybe if we add hip hop to this, maybe we'll get
Okay.
somewhere.
No. Here we go. We are going to be an emo spoken word
That was cursive.
90s alt rock mixed with 80s new wave with a side of country.
Okay, that works. That works.
It's original.
Don't ask me how that's going to work together. We're still working on our sound as we speak, but we're going to unify the world with this. So Ice Nugget coming to Spotify soon. And on that note, awkward ending and scene. Jesus. If you want to support this show, you can go to patreon.com/skiffyandfanty or skiffyandfanty.com, our website, where you can get access to all of our fancy things. Our music comes from Holy Mole. You can support him and his work at patreon.com/holymole. Thank you for listening.